Hello, class. Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about recognizing and maximizing motivation amongst adolescent male soccer players. Though, though you all are adolescent male soccer players, motivation really applies to any genre, any task. It transcends it. So don't be afraid to apply this to other facets of your life as well. So first, we'll begin with defining motivation. Uh, Take a moment to think in about one sentence, one or two sentences, what you might define motivation as uh, from your experiences. As you do that, I will share my definition and definitions that are widely accepted, such as uh, Weinberg and Gould's definition, which is that it's basically the intensity and direction of effort. So, intensity is the effort aspect of it, whereas direction is whether or not you decide to undertake a certain task or project. And another definition of what motivation could be considered by Sugarman is it's what drives and pushes someone to work hard toward a goal, a catalyst to action. Um, these are pretty standard and applicable definitions that I think you could probably relate to, but I would encourage you to come up with your own definition of it, and then hopefully we can come back to it at the end of the class. Then why don't we go ahead and discuss the importance of motivation? Another quote. The This session, the presentation is littered with quotes that I think will be impactful for your development and understanding of motivation. And here's another. It's playing football or soccer. Playing football with your feet is one thing, but playing football with your heart is another. And I don't know about you, but I think this is a very deep and meaningful quote and approach. And if you and your teammates on the soccer field are able to play with your hearts, I think it's very likely that you'll enjoy it, you'll be motivated, you will feed off of each other, and it should lead to a better experience overall. And yes, essentially a talent, ability, potential, um, skill, these things are really going to be rendered useless if you, the athlete, the soccer player, are not motivated properly. And so we'll look to discuss that in further detail. As we analyze the motivational processes, we'll take a look at three basic ways that we can enhance it. And there's goal setting, there's positive self-talk, and there's also mission statements. And for today's session, we're going to be discussing mission statements. So the other two, hopefully we can come back to in future sessions. But for today, at the end, we will be focusing on mission statements. And you will have been provided the handout in the attached files. Let's begin by differentiating between intrinsic, extrinsic, and amotivational patterns. Intrinsic, as the root word suggests, is the inherent pleasure of doing the activity. It's a personal choice to participate. Whereas extrinsic motivation might stem from trying to satisfy external demands or in search of external rewards, accolades, trophies, money, what have you. And these are typically the extrinsic motivational rewards are typically reinforced through positive and negative, uh, yes, reinforcement. And then we have amotivational, which means that you might not be motivated. And I think that that's very common. And so if there's ever a time where you're lacking motivation in general, then perhaps this is the state that you're currently in. A few examples. One that I thought was quite interesting, and I think will apply to you regardless, is the intrinsic biological motivation, and that would be things like water and food, and these are things that it drives us, and you would really have no control. You would really seek out these sort of commodities, and with the extrinsic reward, there's money. In your case, because you are adolescent male athletes, potentially scholarships, collegiate scholarships to play. There is popularity in and amongst your peers, and there could be pressure or fear. Uh, so you could be trying to appease and accommodate any one of these various factors. Given your demographic, I thought you would be mature enough, so I hope that you are mature enough to be able to handle this next quote. But it's from an elite soccer player, one of the best all time, uh, and he says, "I spent a lot of money on booze, birds, and fast cars. The rest I just squandered." That's by George Best, and that's an example of extrinsic reward serving as a huge, a significant motivating factor, and there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what floats your boat, then so be it. And so for some of the greats, that they were motivated by extrinsic reward, certainly. And yes, another great quote here is play for the name on the front of the shirt and they'll remember the name on the back. So the reason I like this is because at times you may be intrinsically motivated to reach personal achievements, and then there are extrinsic pressures where you would like to help your teammates and make sure that the team is doing well as well. And so in order to accommodate both, you would be able to, this is a good way to accommodate both your personal ambition and the team goals. Next, we'll recognize and identify characteristics of a motivated versus an unmotivated athlete. A motivated athlete would typically give great effort. They wouldn't give up. They would face adversity and overcome it. They would, perform up to their ability on a consistent basis, and also they would exhibit symptoms of having fun and enjoyment. Whereas an unmotivated athlete would refrain from giving full effort. They would probably hold back in training and or competition. They may have a desire to quit. Yeah, that could definitely be something that they portray. There's also a regular performance impairment. They're just not, fulfilling their potential, and it becomes quite evident when a player is lacking motivation. Next, we'll move into confidence. Why? Because confidence can lead to increased motivation. It's a fake it till you make it mentality, but if you are not confident and spurring yourself on and your teammates on, it becomes difficult to sustain high elite motivation levels. It requires a lot of work, and so you need to enforce it and make yourself believe that you are confident, and this will naturally lead, studies have shown that it will lead to increased motivation. Uh, and then we have the self-determination theory by Deci and Ryan, and the three components that they discuss that are essential to human needs are relatedness, competence, and autonomy. So I would like for you to take a second and think for yourself. Are your needs being met at the moment? As an adolescent male in the sport of soccer, are your needs being met in these three categories or not? And relatedness means do you relate to your teammates? Do you are you friends? Do you socialize? Do you interact a bit? Or is it just strictly business? Competence, do you feel like you have the skills to participate and contribute? That's very important. And then autonomy, do you have some sort of say, or are you just controlled like a robot? And if you find that you're lacking in any one of these areas of motivation, or in any one of these areas, it's probably affecting your motivation. And I encourage you to speak with myself and your coach, and we will try to resolve those issues for you. Then we have task and ego-oriented goals. These are important because they relate to the motivational climate. And things that are inherent in a task-oriented or mastery-oriented environment include high effort, doing the best that one can, self-reference, not too concerned with the opposition or factors that are not under your control. There is more enjoyment of the sport and mastering tasks that are not necessarily resulting in a win or a loss or a certain outcome. Also, yes, greater team cohesion will likely result when there is a task orientation, and peer relationships will also tend to be more positive. So we'll look to increase task-oriented goals in our goal setting session. Ego-oriented, comparing yourself with others, trying to best others, and this is where you derive your enjoyment. And that's fine as well. That works for some people, and there's no fault in preferring either one or the other. What I would like for you to take away primarily from this session is the misconception that it must be one or the other. You must be either intrinsically motivated or extrinsically, and that's not the case. Instead, I urge you to use both. Athletes who combine task and oriented goals will have multiple sources of subjective success and perceived competence. So at times you may lose your external reward. At times you may lose your internal drive. So to be able to look to another source will lead to a more consistent sustainability in your motivation. It's also important to educate your collateral contacts, that is your significant others, your parents, your siblings, your girlfriends, whatever. Often, it's a rhetorical question, but have you ever heard the question after a game? What's the first thing that people will ask you? It's, did you win? And this is because everyone is aware of outcome-oriented goals, but they don't realize that by asking that question, by narrowing it down, by doing that, they're not getting a full experience. the win or the loss is not indicative of the entire experience. And so it would be good if your friends, family members, people that you interact with are aware that you are looking for different, you have task oriented goals that if they are achieved, it will have been a successful experience, you know? So this is also something to consider. And then we have Hannon's individual zone of optimal functioning, which is in relation to your arousal level. And if your arousal level needs are not met, then this can influence your motivation. If you are a person who needs to be uh, pushed and berated or whatever, what have you, and the coach is not of that style, then you may struggle to be motivated. Or if the coach is abrasive in their personality and approach, and you can't handle that, then also your motivation might certainly decrease. So these are definitely things to consider and to recognize and understand what your ideal and optimal zone of functioning is. Do you like to be pumped up or relaxed? And this will help clarify how we can best motivate you. Lastly, as your handout suggests, it's very simple, very straightforward. Talking about mission statements, I feel mission statements are key to sustaining motivation levels. At times we might forget why we are participating in the sport. And so this is a good thing to reference. As you can see, keeping it in a good place where you might be reminded of it consistently throughout a long season or a long off season or rehabilitation or whatnot. It's good to have it in a good location. We'll discuss how to create one, but essentially, you ask yourself why it is you participate in your sport and what it is you love about your sport, and then the rest will kind of stem from there. But that is the idea behind it. A couple of benefits include that it helps with the cohesion of a unit, a team, the bonding of a team. Everyone gets on the same page and understands each other's expectations. So that's very important. It will help the athletes reflect. Perhaps their mission changes, and there's no fault in that. But yes, you can be aware. Perhaps at a different point in the season, your mission is now not the one that it was at the beginning, and perhaps you can address this. It would be important to do so, I think. There's also assisting with maintaining, and sustaining the motivation. One example of not quite a full-on mission statement, but just an acronym is BATTLE, basketball at the top level every day. A couple other, little team mottos, mission motto, statement motto. The team above all, the team. I think that's a good team concept that you all could refer to if you like when you're out on the pitch and in a tough situation or pregame speech. Having that unity is key. Another example is teamwork makes the dream work. So if you have a dream, it will happen if you work together as a team. Yeah, brilliant. And last example, hustle and heart set us apart. Nice. So look, class, thank you for listening today. If you have any comments or questions, please come talk to me afterwards. I'll be here to answer, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.